Remember it. Yeah, we that was always the invocation.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You know it. You know it. You know it. Okay, let me just come back here to you. All right, great. So, Jaya Sri Krishna
Remember it. Yeah,
Chaitanya
that was always the
Prabhu
invocation. Yeah, you got it. You got it. You
Nityananda
know it. You know it. You know it.
Shri
Okay, let me just come back here to
Advaita
you. All right, great. So,
Gadadhar
Jaya
Srivasadi
Sri
Gaur
Krishna
Bhaktavrinda. Sorry,
Chaitanya.
what's happening right now while I'm playing
Prabhu
is the
Nityananda. Yeah,
YouTube
you got it. You know it. You know it.
is
Yeah.
playing this back to me. We'll have to take two here. Yay, Baba Tarini have come, and your Hari have come. And Baba Tarini, my dear God sister, please accept my respectful obeisances. And your Hari, is he coming soon too?
Well, he's on the third floor and he doesn't know if he can make it down.
I understand. Okay. Baba Trini, I want you to meet my good friend, Henry Krishna Prabhu. And he brought his keyboard tonight. And
Oh,
Henry Prabhu, I met at the Toronto Temple. How many years ago was it, Henry?
Probably at least five,
Yeah.
6 years. I don't know.
And Henry has gone to India. How many times, Henry?
19 times so far.
Wow.
So
Yeah. And Henry has he's known devotees in our city of Hamilton, which produced Uttama Shloka, Vishvakarma, Barhishmati, Uttama's former wife, Bhumna
I
Prabhu,
know.
Bhumna.
I lived in Toronto in 74 and 5.
Oh, okay. So you know all those devotees.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I even went to Hamilton once.
Oh, nice. So I asked Henry Prabhu to do a little kirtan for us tonight.
That's
He's
wonderful.
he's a trained classical pianist.
Mm.
And so I asked him, "Do you know the Panchitatva Mantra?" And he said he was a little rusty on it. So he asked me to do it. And so I'm just going to do a couple of bars of Panchitattva, and then I'm going to turn things over to Henry Prabhu to do a little kirtan. Usually, Henry,
Wonderful.
we do a kirtan like maybe not more than 5 or 10 minutes, if that's all right with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, I'll just start. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. It's all yours, Henry.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
It was wonderful. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Beautiful.
You can close it off.
You're on mute, Gaura. You're on mute.
Amut.
You're muted, Gaura.
Be muted more often. After hearing that, I think of Krishna saying in Bhagavad Gita, Shabda ke Purusham Drishu. He says, I am the ability in man. And I'm going to expand a little bit on what Krishna said and say, I am the ability in man and woman too.
Ah.
That was amazing. Loved it.
The grace of God.
Yes. That's what my mom used to tell me.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
talent we have, it's a gift of God. Yeah. That's amazing. How many years did you study classical music, Henry?
From the age of 7, pretty much.
It shows.
Wow.
A little break in high school, and then I went on to music school, university, and I've been studying not quite ever since. I kind of renounced it around 94, for
Yeah,
about
we
6 years.
were gonna do another sweep last night.
Whoops, I wonder who that is. Okay. All
Anyway,
right. So I'm
I,
so grateful to have the association of all of you this evening. My dear friend Tridandi Maharaj, who doesn't listen to me uh, by giving me reports on how he's doing. The latest report he gave me is some Buddhist monk who's speaking strongly to his Buddhist community not to come under the influence of the scamdemic. So that to me it indicates some sign of health that he's able to send me a link, but he hasn't informed me how his health is. But it was his suggestion, Gaura, if you're doing these readings on Srila Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction, which was composed roughly 500 years ago, the Sri Upadeshamrita, the Amrita, the nectar of Upadesh, instruction, for Lord Chaitanya's intimate associate.
Want to sit here?
And
Okay.
sorry, I have to put you on mute. He suggested go to verse 11. Go to the last verse, which describes the background here, where I wish I was, Sri Radha Kund, and by meditating on what our goal is to achieve the mercy of the Lord, just near Vrindavan, Sri Radha Kund, then okay, I'll unmute you now because we're getting a little noise from you, Hari and Bhavtrini. Then we can go back to the beginning of Nectar of Instruction. After hearing about the topmost goal, then we can go back to the ABCs of Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Uttarapasta Vegam, the necessity of controlling the urge to speak, and the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of the belly, etc. If one can do this, it's described, then one is qualified to make disciples all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada stated that I want each of my disciples, and that also applies to grand disciples, as far as I understand. He said he wanted each of us to have 10,000 disciples. That's quite amazing. And he didn't, and the anti-Diksha Guru devotees may crucify me, and Christ, it ain't easy. But Prabhupada did not just say he only wanted his male disciples to have 10,000 disciples each. He said he wanted all of his disciples to have 10,000 disciples each. So anyway, that's a whole other discussion. So let me pull up our reading here on the Sri Upadeshamrita, and we're looking at the commentaries given by Srila Rupa Goswami, his commentaries on his book given by Radharaman Goswami, which we've already, I believe, read. The Anovriti commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, and as well as the commentary given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, I thought I had everything queued up here, and I'm just looking for, let's see, verse, okay, I'm just looking for number 11 here, the last verse. I think I'm almost there. Please bear with me for a second. So Bhavatrini, and we heard from Rasangi. She said she went there one time with Alice Coltrane and was her guide. Was it just you and Alice Coltrane or Sangi that went to Radha Kund, or did you go with other devotees?
That was Pradyumna who
Oh,
took us on Parikram. And yeah, he took us on Parikram. And we were there alone, and they took us all over Vrindavan personally. One of Brahmananda took us, and Tamal. We were just, yeah, it was like amazing. 1 month.
so fantastic. So Piper, we have Piper with us tonight from Atlanta, and Henry from Hamilton. Do either of you know who Pradyumna is, Piper or Henry?
No. Maybe if I saw his face. I know faces sometimes when I don't know names.
Bhavatarini, can you just briefly say something about Pradyumna? Prabhu?
He was translating, and he was Prabhupada's scholar and traveled with him a lot. He called him the Pandit, and his wife was Arundhati. They were early disciples. I think they joined 60. I think she joined like 66 or.
Mm-hmm.
Rasika Prabhu probably knows.
When his marriage didn't work out, Prabhupada called for him to come and work directly with him. That was amazing, huh? Their marriage wasn't working, and Prabhupada had him come take shelter right in his very room. And he began to do all of that personal work with Prabhupada. Yeah.
So sometimes if a marriage doesn't work out, it can be a blessing. Is that right?
Obviously, huh? Amazing, right?
It was.
Such mercy.
Yeah.
And now Pradyumna works at the United Nations.
Oh,
You know
really?
that?
No.
You know, when Sundar Gopal spoke at the United Nations in 2019 at the International Day of Yoga, he visited Pradyumna, and they met together very wonderfully and had great discussions.
Wonderful.
Wow, I didn't know.
I know, huh? Who knew? But he told me, and it was very sweet. He's still involved with literature. He's quite brilliant. I'm not sure what his connection is with.
Last time I saw him in Los Angeles, this was a long time, about maybe 10 years or more.
That was in 2019, and he was.
Yeah.
I'm driving, so I'm not on camera.
He was teaching Chinese now at college, university. That was some 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Is that him?
Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember him much less hair and like that. But that's
You're
him.
in Atlanta?
Yes, I am, Mataji.
Yeah.
Well, outside of Atlanta, not right in Atlanta. We're in a suburb in Roswell.
Oh yeah, my brother
lives in Roswell. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's the first disciple, probably.
First disciples from Atlanta. He only
Okay.
had 4 disciples from Atlanta. Prabhupada.
Yeah, I know Balabhadra Prabhu and his wife Gandhari.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a good friend of mine.
Oh, great.
Yeah, sweet, very sweet lady.
Yes. Beautiful.
So it just seems at one point when I shut down my computer, it also caused me to lose all my references here. I'm just surprised. I thought I had everything queued up, so that's why I'm not interfering with anybody's discussion. Okay, so I hope that I've got something queued up here, and we're ready to go. Pretty sure. Okay, so just to say that previous weeks we did. Oh, good. We have Nimai Chaitanya Prabhu here, our Ayurvedic doctor, to check up on us and make sure that we're all in good health. Jai Nimai Chaitanya, thank you very much.
Haribol, Dandavats.
Yeah, please meet my friends up in my corner. At least I've got Henry Krishna Prabhu from Hamilton, Ontario, And over in the right corner, you may know Bhavatarini and Nrihari Prabhu's in Hawaii. And then to the far corner, we have Piper from Atlanta and Rasangi Santa Cruz. But she may be walking right now. That's why she's just a black box at this time. And Nimai Chaitanya, you are in Boston, correct?
Yes.
And you've been a student of Dr. Vasant Lad in Ayurveda, is that correct?
Actually, not Dr. Ladd, one of his students.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Great.
A little more David Frawley, but more Dr. Ladd's student who was actually a devotee.
Wonderful.
Mostly.
Had some good association there.
We're going to be on a Zoom meeting with.
Yes, tomorrow.
Yes.
That's right. Nice to see you guys.
A Zoom of what exactly?
Been a while.
It's about Grihasta perspective. And they have all these questions they want to ask us. And
oh, I see.
Yeah,
You're doing
they got put us on the spot.
I see.
they're putting us on the spot.
Okay. More devotees should know about that. Okay, I've got the book ready here. And these are commentaries by Srila Narayan Maharaj on the last verse of the Nectar of Instruction. So without further ado, all right, let's see, what's the order here? So first it's me, then Henry, then Bhavatrini and Hari, then Piper, then Nimai Chaitanya. Unless Nimai Chaitanya, you have to leave very soon, then you can read first, because I don't know, you said you were with your family, and I don't want to impose if you have to go. Do you have to go soon, Nimai Chaitanya?
I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how the night flows. But just go ahead. I'm happy to hear.
Okay, very good.
I don't need to read, please.
All right. So we have read this 10th sloka and also some of the purport that I want you to read page 87, second paragraph, after taking to devotional service. So a devotee is reading from verse number 10. After taking to devotional service, under the regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatan. So Srila Narayan Maharaj answers, can you explain why he has said service under the regulative principles? A person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead. Why has he said may, devotee? Because it is not guaranteed that just by practicing the Vaidhi Bhakti process, they will automatically come to. I think that everyone here is understanding this fact. He has said may. He has not given any guarantee for this. Those who, why don't we read a page each? Henry, would you like to continue? Those who cultivate?
Yeah. Cultivate regulative principles and then come in the association of a realized Rasika Bhakta in the line of Rupa Goswami will get spontaneous love. Otherwise, simply by following these regulative principles for lakhs and
lakhs
of births, one cannot come to the platform of spontaneous love.
Excuse me for interrupting you for a second. Nrihari Prabhu, lakh is 100,000, or is that correct?
It's 100,000.
Okay, correct. Please continue, Henry. But we hope
to be fortunate to come in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We like to be called Rupanuga Vaishnavas. Why? Can anyone answer? Why do we want to be Rupanuga Vaishnavas and glorify Swamiji as Rupanuga? The devotee says,
by the way, that Swamiji that he's referring to there is our Srila Prabhupada. Please continue.
Yeah. Devotee says, because Srila Rupa Goswami appeared in this world most recently. He is Rupa Manjari and is so close to Krishna and Srimati Radhika. Following very closely in his footsteps as a Rupanuga Vaishnava is the only way to attain that kind of closeness, that kind of intimacy, and that kind of bhakti. And then, can you tell the difference between Rupanuga, no, Raganuga and Rupanuga. Devotee says, Raganuga means to follow the real Vrajavasis in any of the rasas like Dhyasa, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. The real Vrajavasis who have Radha are called Ragamika Bhaktas. But Rupanuga specifically means those following Rupa Manjari, who is serving Srimati Radhika. And then question...
That's Narayan Maharaj speaking, BVNM.
Oh, Narayan Maharaj says,
yeah.
Rupanuga means especially Rupa Goswami in his own mood. In his books, he has explained all kinds of rasa and all kinds of rati. But what was the special mood towards Krishna? How did he serve and in what mood? If anyone follows Rupa Goswami's mood, he will advance in Manjari Bhav. Otherwise not. Vallabhacharya is not Rupanuga. Swarup Damodara is not Rupanuga. What is he? Swarup Damodara himself is Lalita. He is Rupa Goswami's guru, and Rupa serves under him. But yet Rupa has a special service to Srimati Radhika, which Lalita does not have. Swarupa Damodara serves Srimati Radhika and Krishna equally, but with some partiality for Radhika. But Rupa is totally absorbed in serving Srimati Radhika. This is the mood of Rupa Goswami.
I'm just wondering, is everyone kind of understanding, or it's a very high subject matter that we're dealing with here? Does anyone have any questions up till now?
Didn't we read
thoughts?
Time?
Sorry?
Didn't we just read this last time?
Yeah, and I couldn't remember exactly the paragraph, and not everyone was there, so
it's just two of us.
Oh, it was two of us. Okay.
Yeah, it was just two of us. All right. Anyway, aside from that, do you want to go back to reading, or does anyone have a comment before we continue on? Piper, you have any thoughts?
Can you kind of consolidate that and kind of in just a couple of sentences?
Yeah. Are you able to do that in your hurry, Prabhu?
Okay. This requires a little background on not only Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the close circle of what our goals are. That's number one. As Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, following these rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti and our spiritual master gave us are very important. They should definitely will detach us from, will give us a connection to Krishna. Now, Bhakti is divided in two. One is this Vaidhi Bhakti is regulated principles that are followed by both groups. Now, Ragadmika means, Raga means saturated with love. And there is no one at that level but the Brajavasis. Brajavasis meaning those who take birth in the land of Braja when Krishna has taken birth. And so they're very close associates. And the difference between a Ragadmika and a Vaidhi Bhakti, by which following this Vaidhi Bhakti one can attain Vaikunta, is in the mode, puts one in the mode of awe and reverence towards the Supreme Lord. Whereas, as Prabhupada would say, as we advance, Krishna actually prefers the more intimate treatment, where the devotee no longer thinks of him as the Supreme Lord, but is relating to him in 5 or in 4 of the principal rasas or exchanges that can be from Dasya all the way to Madhurya. So it's Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Do you know these terms?
I've heard them, yes. Like as a mother or as a friend or as a lover or yeah.
Vatsalya is parental love. So once that we progress, and it's always through association, it's always through Anugatya is called, or taking shelter of the superior Vaishnava, vis-a-vis the spiritual master. One is able to, but it's explained that you have the ultimate goal is actually to follow in the footsteps of any of those inhabitants of Raja, those who relate directly to the Lord, those who are in Raga. Raga means they're totally absorbed in love of Godhead and love of Krishna, but in a way that is either by service, as a direct servant, or as a friend servant, or as in a parental mood, or in conjugal mood. And then there's subdivisions in that too. So it's very dense, it's very comprehensive theme, and we are still studying and trying to get there. But actually the magic occurs with the contact with, in service to the spiritual master. As Sri Narayana Maharaj explains here, you can practice for lakhs, for hundreds of thousands of births, but unless we come in touch with someone who has developed that love, that ragatmika love, like the Brajavasis, we cannot really get there. Specifically now, it goes to the difference between Rupanuga and Raganuga. Rupanuga followers are Raganuga bhaktas because they all want to relate to Krishna and those four principal rasas. Spontaneous love. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan says, "Oh, I had to do this because that's Krishna. If I don't do it, I go to hell." No, I love Krishna and I want him to be well protected. The mother to give protection to her child, her ideal child. Who's that? No one other than Krishna. But they don't see Krishna as God, and so. But those moods have to be imbibed or received from our spiritual master, who is an associate, intimate associate in that level of ragatmika bhakti. Now, in our line, Rupa Goswami is known for knowing the inner desires of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so it was to establish this the highest love for Krishna in the conjugal mood, in the mood of actually manjaris. That's what a jiva can aspire to be. We cannot be an expansion of Radharani, Lalita, Vishaka, any of the principal sakis, or be any of the principal sakas for that matter. But we can follow any of those through with the guidance of the spiritual master to attain one of those positions. In our case, and our line, since we're coming from Rupa Goswami, who's none other than Rupa Manjari, we imbibed her moods. We want to do that. But that's something that naturally will happen by the association and the shelter, taking shelter of the spiritual master. And in that case, he has to be also a Rupanuga.
Yeah. But did you explain? So Lalita, Vishaka, they feel equal towards Radha and Krishna, maybe with a leaning towards Radharani. But the Manjaris in Rupa's Gan, in her group, they just want to serve Radharani.
Let me just ask Henry for a second. Henry, are you familiar what a Manjari is? Henry?
No, no, I don't really know.
Yeah,
The
okay, because we're using a lot of terminology here. I think it's important just to check in with.
Yeah, I don't reckon. I recognize it, but I don't know what that particular one means.
Could you say something about that, Bhavatrini, about what a Manjari is?
Well, a Manjari is like on the Tulsi plant, the little stem with the little buds on it. That's called a Manjari. So Manjari is maid servant of Radharani, and they're young girls, like 12 and a half, 13, and they don't care to have a separate relationship with Krishna. They want to unite Radha and Krishna and serve. And so they're also sometimes the word maid servant. They're like maid servants or kinkaris. They're always ready. What's next? What can I do next? How can I serve next? So it's like Krishna can't be happy really unless he's with Radha. So this is the highest goal, to reunite or unite Radha and Krishna. So
Is a Manjari a classification for gopi? Does it mean a younger gopi?
yes.
Yes. And
It's they're privy to they can go into the kunja when Radha and Krishna are there. They can do intimate services because they're young. They're younger, but
it's like, let's say, you're in high school and you have a bunch of friends, the girls probably know this, and there's usually maybe a leader, and the rest of the friends are, let's call them sakis. So yes, they're friends, they're dear, they love you, but they will tease you if they know about your feelings towards a boy. Whereas, so then they're your equals, they're your buddies. And so there is not many things that Radharani reveals most of her thoughts, but most so to her Manjari, especially Rupa Manjari.
they're her confidence.
They're her confidence.
Yeah.
And so whereas Radha cannot always want always to express her feelings because she could get teased by her friends.
Yeah. And
So it becomes very close to human behavior, and at the same time is extraordinary. It's transcendental because now we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his counterpart, his female aspect, his internal energy. So the plays are ras is the churning of emotions. So to procure that, God decides to become two in order to start to bring forth ras, or this bellows of relationship. We have them here. We want the perfect son. We want the perfect husband, the mother, child, like that. But they're in this atmosphere, it's impossible to achieve. So there is the pure side of that, which is these relationships. So, but there's always, since it's a transcendental relation, they can experience, Manjaris have a very privileged position in the sense that they can feel what Radha feels. And so
Thank you. Yes.
It's, let's say Krishna is the tree.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, no, I was hoping because Piper was asking. I mean, I know it's very difficult to say concisely in 2 sentences.
Yeah, there's terminology here, Manjari.
No, but that helped a lot. Thank you.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
But would they also be kind of an expansion of Radha herself?
Yeah.
The Manjaris? Yeah.
Sakis. They're one with Radha. Like when she experiences with her loving exchanges
The
with
Manjari,
Krishna, when Radha experiences them, the Manjaris experience them. They're one with her. What's the word?
Tadatmika.
Tadatmika.
Tadatmika. Okay.
So they
equal
have
thought.
no interest to enjoy separately with Krishna. Whereas
Okay.
sometimes they, are with Krishna. Some have more of a leaning towards Radha, some more towards Krishna, some equal. But the Manjaris are just want Radha Darshan, Radha's service.
So they
Sorry.
get the they get the same pleasure in this as in the service of
Yes.
of Radha and Krishna's relationship as Radha
Not-
has with Krishna.
Yes.
Only those who are Tadatmik.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Not all. Not all.
Yeah, we were explaining only the followers
Of Rupa
of
Manjari.
Rupa Manjari, not, because Chandravali has Manjaris
No.
and Shamala and
Mhm.
this
Welcome, Mahabodhi Prabhu.
Dandavat pranams, everyone.
Thank you very much for coming,
is
for
wonderful to see.
spending a little time with us. That's fantastic. Mahabodhi Prabhu is in the hills of West Virginia. Is that right?
Correct. There's snow. The first snow out here, so it's not snowing now, but we got
Right.
our first snow of the year here.
Just so everybody knows, in previous days, we've read Srila Prabhupada's commentary on this Nectar of Instruction. We've read Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj's commentary on this Nectar of Instruction. And the section I was looking for, which I located while you were all having that discussion, is the Anovriti commentary of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Piper, would you like to read a page of this, and then we'll maybe stop for a second, and then we can continue on. Could you read for us?
Sure.
Okay, let me just find this here. Share the screen, and here we are. Okay, this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary on this 11th verse.
Whose
Please.
commentary? Whose commentary?
This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's
Oh, okay.
commentary.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada's, on this verse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anovriti. Srimati Radhika is Sri Krishna's dear most beloved and the crest jewel of those who are dear to him. In the scriptures, devotee sages have described Sri Radhakund as being Sri Krishna's foremost beloved object, as dear to him as Srimati Radhika herself. The topmost love for Bhagavan, Gopi Prem, is exceedingly difficult even for dearly beloved devotees of Bhagavan, such as Narada, to attain. Not to speak of how difficult it is for devotees still in the practitioner stage, sadhaka bhaktas, to achieve that rare prem. But very easily, Sri Radhakund bestows this prem upon one who bathes in her waters just once. Sri Radhakund is full of prem and indeed is actually comprised of waters of nectarine prem. By transcendentally reading or residing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Oh, by transcendentally residing a prakrita vas
Yeah.
on the banks of Sri Radhakund, and by transcendentally bathing a prakrita snan in her waters, one will obtain the topmost prem. What is meant by, I keep trying to say this, aprakrita vas and aprakrita sanan, remaining thoroughly aloof from all desires for material sense enjoyment, deep
Why don't you finish the paragraph?
deep meditational worship, manas bhajan, in strict devotion to Srimati Radhika for the duration of one's life. After shedding this material body, one will attain an eternal spiritual body and be intently engaged in direct eternal service to Srimati Radhika. Only one who bathes in Sri Radhakund in this way attains the topmost prem.
Henry Prabhu, did you have a chance to go to Radhakund when you were in Vrindavan? Do you remember?
I did on my first trip, I believe, yes.
Okay. Um, I'd just like to ask Mahabodhi Prabhu, do you have any comment to make on what we just read?
No,
From you? Okay. Shall we move along? I mean, I don't mind if others make comments as long as we can sort of be concise a little bit. Nirhari, Bhavatrini, anything from you? Okay. Nimai Chaitanya, anything from you? Rasangi?
Nope.
Okay. And yay, Nitya Leela's come all the way from Pakistan to join us.
Ooh.
Welcome back.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nitya Leela.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for
the,
coming
be-
back.
the best part of the whole commentary, not the best, a good part of the whole commentary, if one even bathes once in Radha Kund, then they may get Krishna praying. So I was remembering all the way back to 1973, 73, 74, somewhere way back then, when we came to Radha Kund, and Guru Das encouraged everyone to go take a bath. So there was about 12 or 13 brahmacharis that were in that went to swim actually in Radha Kund, but a few of them were like, making it like water sports. The rest were like more, subtly respectful, but we're happy to bathe in it. And then, Prabhupada found out, and he really chastised, Guru Das, but I was thinking as she was reading this verse, well, we may not have known anything, but just by dipping once, if Bhaktisiddhanta says, our grand spiritual master, that you can obtain Krishna praying simply by bathing Radha Kund once. So I guess somewhere in our future lives we'll be very fortunate.
Wow. Yeah. It gives me hope because I don't feel I'm doing so great devotionally, but I did bathe in Radha Kund a few times, and somewhere in this apartment, I don't know if it's all dried up, but I have a jar of Radha Kund water someplace. So drop a few drops of that on my head. That's like taking a snan. If you know of anyone going to India, you can ask them, please visit Radha Kund and bring back a bottle of water of Radha Kund for me. Is that bona fide? I'll ask my
Yeah.
daughter. That's allowed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We use it often for when we're bathing, Radha Madhava, we put a few drops of Radha Kund in so that they're getting bathed with Radha Kund as well.
Nice.
So
Nimai Chaitanya Prabhu, you haven't read yet. Could you please read for us a page? Nimai Chaitanya, are you able to read, or is that difficult? I can ask Nitya Leela if
I'm
you're
just trying to expand it so I can see it.
okay. Are you able to? Obtaining such good fortune.
It's not expanding. I don't know why. It says to pinch it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe someone else should read because I can't expand it.
Nitya Leela, please read while. Could you please read, Nitya Leela? Are you able to?
Yeah, thank you so much. Obtaining such good fortune is exceedingly difficult even for such exalted premi devotees such as Narada. It is extremely difficult even for the perfected devotees who eternally serve Krishna in the devotional mallows, rasas of servitude, dasya, friendship, sakhya, and parenthood, vatsalya, to bathe in Sri Radha Kunda. What to speak of worldly minded persons? What more can possibly be said? Speak of worldly minded persons. What more can possibly be said of the glories of taking aprakrata snana in the Sri Radha Kunda? Those who bathe there obtain good fortune that extend all the way up to becoming maid servants of Sri Varshabhanuvi Srimati Radhika. Sri Govinda Dasa was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dear servant, always accompanying Mahaprabhu as if he were he were his shadow. He served Mahaprabhu with great love. Simultaneously, he would also record in his own words descriptions of Sriman Mahaprabhu's especially significant pastimes. The collection of verses he wrote became famous by the name of Govinda Kadacha. Having heard these verses direct from Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Krishna Dasa Kaviraja Goswami explained them in his own words in his Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Though the medium of those verses, light was shed upon Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental character. The following is a narration from the time when Sriman Mahaprabhu was residing in Jagannatha Puri. Mahaprabhu had already fulfilled the objectives for which he descended upon this earth. Now he desired to wind up the pastimes. One day, he took his intimate devotees and went to the shore of ocean. Seeing the blue ocean, remembering of Shyamasundara immediately arose within him. Becoming overwhelmed in devotional ecstasy, bhava, he was oblivious to all else. With great difficulty, his devotees gradually brought him to external consciousness. At that very time, Sri Gaura Sundara slowly began instructing those devotees. In that assembly, Mahaprabhu's very dear disciple Sri Rupa Goswami also present. Rupa Goswami wrote those instructive verse form, and these verses became famous as Sri Updesha Amrita, nectarian instructions for spiritual practitioners. This Updesha Amrita is like their very lives and necklace to be worn all the times.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on what we've just read, please? So it seems that the nectar of instruction, correct me if I'm wrong, this Upadeshamrita is primarily coming out of Lord Chaitanya's teachings in Jagannath Puri. Is that correct?
Yes. But we wanted to say that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, if you take bath aprakrita, transcendentally,
Snana means bath.
snana, or if you reside there transcendentally. So I don't think it's the same as just going there and jumping in the water.
Is it what do you
or
think,
sitting on the bank.
Mahabodhi commentary, please.
I thought
Aprakrat.
First of all, let's just excuse me for interrupting. Let's just, for everyone's benefit, aprakrita means that which is not manifest, or that which is only manifest in the spiritual world. Is that correct?
Yes, unseen. So just like Vrindavan, when it goes to Vrindavan, there's Vrindavan and there's Aprakat. But even so, even if the person goes and doesn't, they don't see anything, they only see some dirtiness or pigs, or they see some stuff like that. Still, the fact that they're in Vrindavan, then the benefit also takes place. So similarly, even though Radha Kund is the most transcendental place in this universe, and is the speciality of Srimati Radhika, who dug it herself, then the transcendental waters are still transcendental to the extent, of course, it'll affect on the individual, even knowingly or unknowingly, but more so for knowingly for those who actually live around Radha Kund, and because of their knowledge and their desire to serve Srimati Radhika, of course, Radha Kund becomes a much more purifier. But even if one, as Bhaktisiddhanta said before, even if one takes bath in Aprakat and Prakat, that Radha Kund is still, because it's the mercy of Srimati Radhika, will still come through to the individual. So it's sort of like even visiting Vrindavan, even if you can't see the spiritual world manifesting there, but because you're in Vrindavan, Vrindavan also acts on the individual, knowingly or unknowingly.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought what we just read is he said, if one resides there in apricot lila or takes bath in that manner, then you get the result. I thought he was saying.
So
that,
if how do you reside there, apricot?
Right.
yeah.
So you can recite apricot. The example like that would be Raghunath Das Goswami, who writes in Vilapa Kusmanjali, who on the banks of Radhakund is entering into the apricot pastimes of Radharani, but still he gets pulled back to his prakat, his I don't know what the right word is, but his material form, and then he's pounding on the ground and crying out on the banks of Radhakund. So if you're so fortunate, like, Raghunath Das or Krishnadas Kaviraj or any other great souls that have, Vishwanath Chakrabarti also stayed there for some time. So if you're that fortunate, you can enter the apricot lila on the banks of Radhakund. That's already, if one could do that, they're already on the platform of Baba, or at least the high levels of Asakti. So, and heading toward Bob. So for the rest though, if you're even a little time spent in Radhakund as it's the most holiest place in the universe. So it's understood that if people come from anywhere in this universe to Radhakund, they'll be benefited whether they're aware of it or not.
Thank you. I just want to check in with Henry Prabhu and Piper Prabhu. Do you have any questions about what we're discussing? Do you have some sense of what aprakrita lila means?
It's difficult. You have to have some studies.
Kind of.
What do you understand it to mean, according to you, Piper?
One would be more transcendental than the other.
Well, with my limited understanding, aprakrita lila means the pastimes of the Lord in the spiritual world.
Yeah,
But then my question is, if you're in Radhakund, are you also not in the spiritual world?
that's right.
That's the point. That's the point I'm making. Even knowingly or unknowingly, you're in Radhakund.
Yeah.
So apricot, the example is, if you've read the Krishna book, then when Uddhava came to visit, Krishna sent him to visit his parents. When he first came to Vrindavan, he saw all the gopas and the cows. Everyone's joyful, and they're all manifested there in a very happy mood because Krishna's there. Then in the next moment, very shortly thereafter, then he saw everyone in separation. That all of the gopis were in separation, and Nanda and Yasoda, they were in much tears, and no cooking had been done since he left. So he saw two different types of Vrindavan. So in the Vrindavan where the gopis are there in separation, that was in Prakat, that was here in Gokul. And then in where Krishna at that particular time, because his other forms which were in Dwarka performing other pastimes away from Vrindavan, then he was in the apricot form there with because he never leaves Vrindavan. Therefore, all the cows and all the animals and all the gopas and gopis, they're all joyful because Krishna was there. But that was unmanifested to the naked eye unless one had spiritual vision.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Mahabodhi Prabhu. So my one question I have is, while Krishna is in Mathura and he sends Uddhava to reassure the gopis in Vrindavan, he's also in Vrindavan, but in the aprakrita manifestation where the gopis don't see him. But he's also simultaneously in Dwarka as well as in Mathura, and he's in all three dhams simultaneously. Am I understanding?
Well, with some exception, that when Krishna goes to Dwarka or Mathura, he goes as an expansion. Vasudeva Krishna or Dwarkades Krishna, right? Which is essentially his manifestation, like Vishnu forms. Okay. When he expands and goes outside of Vrindavan, he's expanding into his Prakash is like Vishnu forms, not forearm forms, but Vasudeva Krishna, Dwarkadish Krishna. Okay. And then when he's in Vrindavan, he never leaves Vrindavan. So there's Vrajendra Nandana. But at some times, and I'm just going to give the exception, like in the Bhagavad Gita, where he's there as Vasudeva Krishna, then because he's feeling separation from the time when all the gopis and all the Vrijabasis were in Kurukshetra, he now starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita as Vrajendra Nandana Krishna in separation, speaking to Arjuna. So he can, because all of his expansions are within Krishna, Krishna can come out or have his expansion at any time. That's his prerogative. Right. So again, even in Dwarka, when he he was also, when he had Dwarkadish form, he was also listening as in Krishna form as well. So there are so many different innuendos here, but for the most part, for most people understanding, Krishna never leaves a step out of Vrindavan, but when he does go, his expansions go.
Got it. Got it. Shikarani, we haven't heard from you. Welcome. Shikarani is in Rochester, New York, and she's our fired up representative of Lord Krishna. She ran the Bhakti Yoga Club at Rochester Institute of Technology, where Yadubar and Vishaka graduated from back in the 60s. And she's also our tech expert. Whenever I have a problem, she's my SOS, emergency expert, to help us out of a tough spot here in these readings. So could you please read a page for us, Sikarani?
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Before she starts, can Nichalila had a question.
Oh, did you have a question, Nichalila? Sorry. Yeah, it says Aprakrita Lila and Pravarsha Nitya Lila same? She's asking.
I've never heard of Pravarsha.
I've never heard of Pravarsha either. You mean Prakrita Lila, I think. Aprakrita Lila and Prakrita Lila, I think you mean, not Pravarsha Lila.
She said she had to leave.
There.
Are you there,
Lila?
Sorry.
Yes, he's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, it was a typo. Go ahead, Mahabodhi Prabhu.
Some Leela, the Nitya Leela means it's always taking place somewhere in the universe or somewhere in also in the spiritual world. And Prakrita means there are some specific pastimes that take place on this earth, Gokul, but may not be also experienced in the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world, there's no killing of the demons. Right. There's no demons in the spiritual world, but there's the impression that Aghasura was here, and Kamsa, the impression of Kamsa went in the spiritual world but it's only impressions. So the killing of the demons and stuff is specifically Krishna's pastimes in Prakriti while he's in this material realm of this earth planet. And sometimes they transfer over to other planets as well. But in the spiritual world, they may not take place. They don't take place. And other pastimes, Rasli and stuff, does take place. So there's a combination of some that take place only in his Narvat, his human-like pastimes in this material world, and then others that transfer not only in this material world, but also the spiritual world, or eternally be taking place. I hope that that's understandable.
Thank you. Please continue. Shikarani, a servant of the famous Sri Radha.
A servant of the famous Sri Radha Ramana deity in Vrindavana, named Sri Radha Ramana Dasa Goswami, composed a beautiful commentary entitled Updesha Prakashka Tika on the 11 verses of Sri Upadeshamrita. After some time, the condition of the residents of this world became critical, because the doctrine of Prem Bhakti has been substantially covered by the frightful influence of the present age of Kali Yuga. Seeing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his dear eternal devotee Sri Bhakti Vinoda Thakur to this world. In simple and comprehensive language, he composed a brief yet essential commentary on the verses of Sri Updeshamrita. This commentary is famous as Piyush Varshini Vriti. Sri Gaura Sundara is the personification of Aprakrita Vipralambharasa, the mellow constituted of sentiments of divine separation from Sri Krishna. To nourish the rasha of Sambhoga, which is when the devotee is meeting together with Krishna, he tasted that Vipralambha rasa, and for the benefit of human society, he taught how it can be attained. It is compulsory for sincere sadhakas to accept these instructions, otherwise, it will be impossible for them to ever achieve Krishna Prema.
In modern times,
Oh, how many paras we are reading?
we're doing a page.
Okay. In modern times, Kali Maharaja, the personification of the present degraded age, has assumed the bogus dress of a devotee of Sri Gaura. Sometimes he adopts the name of imitationist Sahajiya, cults such as Aula, Baula, Neda, or Nedi. With great intensity, he propagates these false philosophies, as well as other doctrines such as Mayavada and Gauranagari, which are opposed to the path of bhakti. Aho, just see the influence of Kali Maharaja. Sambe, I am. In the transcendental loving affairs of Sri Radha Krishna, Sri Krishna is Nagara, the predominating hero Nagara, the predominating hero in the position of the enjoyer, and Sri Radha and her bodily manifestations. The Sakhis are Nagaris, the predominated heroines in the position of the enjoyed. Although Sri Gaura is Krishna himself, he adopts the mood of the Nagari. Srimati Radhika, in order to experience the nature of her love for Krishna, therefore Sri Gauranga is not in the mood of a Nagara. The Gaura Nagaris conceive of Sriman Mahaprabhu as a Nagara and themselves as Nagaris. This is completely opposed to both the mode of Mahaprabhu and the cultivation of Suddha Bhakti.
So I'd like to stop for a second. I saw in a devotional art page on Facebook, and it showed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting on a throne, and he had Vishnu Priya, one of his consorts, on one side, Lakshmi Priya on the other side, and he was sitting there playing the flute. I mean, and the art looked beautiful, and it was done by our godbrother Pandu Das, which I think is, he now calls himself Gadadhar Pran. And I was looking at that painting, I'm thinking, is that Gauranga Nagari, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being portrayed as Krishna, and like, is that off? Is that an offense? And I'll just leave that, Mahabodhi, and I'll leave that to you, Bhavatrini and Rahari. Do you have a comment on that?
I don't know. I've never seen any depictions or read anything about Vishnu Priya and Lakshmi Priya and Lord Chaitanya together, Lord Chaitanya playing the flute.
No, that's a rasabasa.
That sounds rasabasa.
Because then someone made a comment and they said, "Oh, there's a deity called Gaura." Gee, I can't remember now. But yeah, I've never heard of Lord Chaitanya playing a flute before. Mahabodhi, you have some comment on? It doesn't have to be on my point, but just on anything we just read.
Lord Chaitanya came to what? He's Supreme Lord, but he's trying to understand the mood of Radha and how she sees Krishna, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not taking the form as the enjoyer, so that particular mood that artist is painting would be somewhat questionable if you ask, spiritual higher authorities, because you'll see Lord Chaitanya like Gaur Gadadhar. You'll see Radha and Radha in the form of Gadadhar next to Krishna, next to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But at the same, you don't see Krishna playing his flute with the other expansions, Vishnu Priya and Lakshmi Priya, sitting like that. They of course are spiritual also, but I've never seen anything like that. Any picture predict any, and it seemed would be, as Nihari said, somewhat off, like a rasabas at that point.
Right. Okay. So where are we here? Yeah, this is the end of the sentence here of this paragraph. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta he's quoting, he's saying, just see the influence of Kali Maharaj. Some say, I am Gaura Hari himself. Some declare themselves to be glorious spiritual masters. Some consider themselves to be the creator, and others say that they are Shiva. Very enthusiastically, they cheat human society by propagating their bogus philosophies that they were taught by Kali Maharaj. Being pleased with their preaching, Kali Maharaj blesses them and bestows upon them abundant wealth, kanaka, women, kamini, and notoriety, pratishta. Being bewildered by their propaganda, most people ignore Shuddha Bhakti and Bhagavad Bhajan and instead advance along the path of these new depraved philosophies that are based on material enjoyment. They become so intoxicated in this mundane enjoyment that they are completely unaware of just how they are ascending the peak of thorough self-destruction. O faithful devotees, do not move in that direction. Become steadfastly situated upon the path of bhakti that was shown by great personalities such as Sri Sarup Damodar, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and Sri Narottam Thakur. This devotional path enables one to relish the pure Krishna prem that was practiced and preached by Sri Gaura Nityananda, reside in Vraj, and always perform kirtan and smaran of Sri Radha Krishna's Nam, Rup, Guna, and Leela. The doctrine of Gaura Nagari is a bogus philosophy that is opposed to bhakti. Remain aloof from such bogus philosophies. The embodiments of Prema Bhakti, Sri Vishnu Priya and Lakshmi Priya, as well as the embodiment of the holy Dham, Sri Neela Devi, perpetually serve Sri Gaur Sundar, who is the combined form of Sri Radha Krishna. Knowing this to be true, take shelter of him, and following the footsteps of the Vrajagopis, day and night, render devotional service within the mind. By doing so, even that prema seva of Sri Radha Krishna, which is extremely difficult to obtain, will become easily attainable. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur revealed the holy Dham of Mayapur. There he established the regular worship of deities, including Sri Gaura Nityananda, Sri Gaura Gadadhar, Sri Gaura Vishnu Priya, Sri Gaura Lakshmi Priya. Everywhere he preached the holy names of Sri Gaura and Sri Krishna, as well as the doctrine of Shuddha Bhakti, besides composing many of his own books on Shuddha Bhakti. He translated many ancient devotional scriptures and wrote numerous commentaries, essays, and articles. Any commentaries, comments, or questions before we go on to the last section?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody's familiar with all this terminology. La Shuddha, and it might be basic, but it's pretty important because
right.
Like Srila Prabhupada and all our acharyas, including Srila Narayana Maharaj, they stress pure bhakti. Prabhupada called it pure unalloyed devotional service.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so the Shuddha Bhakti.
Is Henry still there?
Henry?
Henry.
I'm not sure. That's all I wanted to.
Yes, Henry's still here. He's quietly listening.
So it's also a point in the commentary where they were talking about, Nagaris and how Kali Maharaj empowers those, deviant philosophies. And we just read, I guess it was last week or a week before, Bhaktisiddhanta's comments and Srila Prabhupada's comments that made it even more clear that even within our movement, there are these persons that are cheating in that regard, and so it's when they say this movement can only be destroyed from within, it means like when good people don't do anything and hear such deviant philosophies and just let it go, and gradually it becomes the changes and things gradually becomes what 10 years from now, instead of what Prabhupada said or Bhaktisiddhanta said, it'll be what someone else changed it to, and therefore very subtly the philosophy changes and becomes lost in time or deviated to particular deviant philosophies. So, Prabhupada in those purports, Bhaktisiddhanta's purports, requested devotees to be to think things through, not just be blind followers. That they're charged with being thinking devotees, and therefore surrender. Surrender, but don't surrender your intelligence.
Right.
So.
And going back to Nrihari Prabhu's point, for the benefit of Piper, Henry, and Sikarani, there's a nice verse by Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadya Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir. Is it Bhaktir Uttama or Bhaktir Uchate? I think Bhaktir Uttama.
Uttama.
Yeah.
They carry the topmost.
So in that, sorry, go ahead.
Tell him what it is.
I'm trying to. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's explaining that pure bhakti means it's devoid of the desire of karma. Like, okay, Krishna, I'll serve you, but I'm expecting this in return. And Krishna, how come you're not keeping up your part of the deal here? I means having some material motivation. Or as we were hearing, Kanaka, Kamini, and what was the other one? Notoriety, Pratishta, the desire for, a gorgeous partner and pardon?
Name and fame, adoration.
Name, profit, adoration, distinction. Thank you. And Jnana Karmadya. From that, what I understand, Gyan means the desire for liberation. Because sometimes when you speak to spiritualists, they're concerned about liberation, moksha, mukti. Henry and I were having this discussion last night, but I was sharing with him that beyond dharma, artha, kama, and moksha is prema, pumartha, mohan. That beyond religiosity for the sake of sense gratification and what is it, dharma, artha, for wealth, so that you can have sense gratification, to ultimately want to become free from all that, is the desire of Krishna prema. The danger of just desiring liberation is you may get that, but you won't get Krishna. But if you get Krishna, then liberation is already included within that. Anything else to say on that verse, Mahabodhi Prabhu?
Yes, I'll read the definition from Rupa Goswami. It says the cult of this, the verse Anabilasita Sunyam, Jnana Kamariyana Vritam, Anukulena Krishnanu Bhakti Uttama. The cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Sri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of the body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments, bhavas, which is not covered by jnana, parentheses, knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and karma, parentheses, reward-seeking activity, and which is devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Sri Krishna, is called Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service.
Thank you. Piper or Henry, do you have a question on what Mahabodhi was just addressing?
I have one question.
Shikarani, yes.
So I understand about the materialistic pleasures and the things which come with this materialistic body. But if somebody is kind of trying or looking for spiritual progress, trying to be a Vaishnav, but at the same time, if they become unhealthy or if they don't have a good partner, like if they want a partner, or things which are very basic, and if those things are not there in their life, their sadhana might be kind of hindered, or their spiritual progress can be somewhat affected.
Because they're out of balance, you mean? Because
So
they're not...
what's the question? What's the question?
So is it also not acceptable to desire for a good health or for a good partner?
No, that in other words, you accept those things favorable. This is another by Rupa Goswami, and reject those things unfavorable. So if you understand the goal of life is that to go back to the spiritual world and then to render service pleasing to Radha and Krishna. And in our scenarios, more specific to Radha, then you accept those things that are favorable. But simply to have a desire for a good partner, or a desire for be healthy, or desire to be wealthy, or desire to be famous, or knowledgeable, those are not pure devotional service. In other words, they may be helpful, just like here you're listening to Bhavatrini and Nehari, so there's a married couple. So it's fortunate if you have a partner that's also interested in spiritual life and helping that way. But at the same time, ultimately these bodies are material and have to be given up. So if our only interest is only in bodily happiness, then we're also going to be fooling ourselves. So part of the interest is that it's not against devotional service to feel good health and to have qualified partner. But at the same time, the main thing is if that's the case for partner, that Krishna's in the center, not that you're in the center or your partners are in the center, but that Krishna's in the center. And then the cooperation do that. And that's a challenge. I'll let others speak in that. And then for good health, yes, health should be maintained. But if you follow the devotional practices and not abiding those, then good health should come. But these bodies ultimately will have to give them up. So even if we have good health, it's only for a period of time. And then just like birth, death, old age, disease is also there. And that will eventually, this body is meant to, for some comes into existence, stays some time, and then dwindles. So we have to think beyond the conception of this material body because we're spirit souls. But those things that are favorable, you can accept, and those things are not favorable, you should reject.
Rasangi, do you have anything to add to that? Rasangi, we haven't heard anything from you. Are you walking? Are you eating? Are you available?
Yeah, I'm driving, but I just want to say that, we're not rejection. We're not neti people. We don't reject anything that can be used in Krishna's service. Right? We want to, Prabhupada said he would take millions and millions of dollars to be used in Krishna's service. And so we want good health. I focus on keeping my health really good as a tool to be able to serve better. And my relationships healthy so that, they can become also part of my Sangha and we can progress in Krishna consciousness together. And if you feel like you need a husband to make progress, which is very common, that's fine. Good, great. Try to find a good devotee husband and progress nicely on the path. Prabhupada, his initial devotees were householders. Contrary to ancient, the original Gaudiya model, Prabhupada saw them as fabulous presenters of Krishna consciousness, and they did so much to spread Krishna consciousness together. So, let's not reject anything that we can use nicely and keep our health up and the balance and use it all for Krishna, all for service.
Yes,
That's
that's one thing that was very attractive.
I was going to say, just before you start, Nurhari, I just want to say, and those are the words of a professional family therapist as well. How many years have you been a family therapist, Rasangi? For how many years have you done that work, Rasangi? Hello? I guess she's
I'm muted again. So I've been involved with this work for 30 years or so.
Oh.
I've been doing, I did more other kind of work in the social services. Now I'm doing straight therapy. And I'm just saying good health on every level is a benefit. If your mind is disturbed, get help. Let's make ourselves the best instruments possible, right? Then we can do seva better and better. That's all.
Thank you. Nurhari Prabhu, you were going to say something.
No, I just totally agree. Just before Rashangi was speaking, I was just thinking how Prabhupada was the most practical personality I've ever seen, and how to apply Krishna consciousness in a practical way. I mean, we can understand all these concepts theoretically, but how do we apply them to our lives? So I love that Rashangi brought up this, and what Prabhupada taught us, that including, I remember Srila Maharaj says we're absolutely allowed to pray for good health, but it's the intention. What is our goal? Always have to remember what is our goal. So is our goal to have a perfect family life, or what we think is or a couple, or to have a health for the sake of health. Bhattarini's grandfather, he was what they call physical culturalist, turn of the century, last century, and they have a saying that was better to be well formed than well informed.
Better to be well formed than be well informed.
Well informed. He used to say that. But what's dynamic, convincing for me to become a joint was that the practicality, the use, and that, like Rasangi said, everything can be used. The principle we call it yukta vairagya, a perfect renunciation.
Right. I've noticed that. Sorry.
No,
again, though,
agreeing with it.
Again, that has to be
thank you for putting your hand up, Mahabhuti. How do we do that? You're the first one to introduce me to this. I've heard of this system. How does the devotee get have this?
Go hit the three buttons that you use on chat, and you'll see down below. You'll see signs and a hand, and you can hit hand, and then you can hit lower hand also.
Oh, in the bottom right hand corner.
Yeah, there's three dots. It says more, something like that. You click that, hit that.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I just says save chat, participant. No one. Oh, I'm not sure where that is.
Under reactions.
Under reactions.
Reactions. Click and you'll see raise hand.
Where's reactions?
Like that. Right?
I see. Okay, so could everyone get in the habit of using that? I really like what Mahabhuti Prabhu has introduced to us, the raised hand. So he had his hand raised. Please go for it, Mahabhuti.
So I just want to, both the Yukta Vairagya is also, as explained, a very important principle, but also the principle, accept those things favorable and reject those things unfavorable. So in other words, someone eating Mahaprasad every day would seem to be very favorable because they're eating Mahaprasad, but yet eating Mahaprasad every day may not be favorable for your health, So then similarly, one who's very serious in trying to take to Krishna consciousness, it may be a deviation for that person to accept a partner and spend the majority of their time in working and doing other things, so raising a family. So both of the Yukta Vairagya is there using whatever can devotional service, but you also have to accept those things favorable and unfavorable, and reject those things unfavorable, to know where is it that you want to do. In other words, what is it? How serious do you want to come to a devotional service? And that's too many things, too much.
Can you? I have to mute Sangi. There's too much noise. I'm sorry. Were you finished, Mahabhuti?
Well, I'll be finished now. I can't hear when.
Oh, go ahead. Please finish your statement.
That's okay. I'm just trying to show there's a balance for one who's following brahmachari, looking for a partner is not a good idea, for one who feels that, oh, this is too difficult, we should become married, then that's fine. But I mean, it's an individual choice in looking at how, what is the best way I can serve, accepting those things favorable and reject those things that are unfavorable.
Right.
And that's where everything boiled down to all those different usages by Rupa Goswami.
That's not always so easy to understand what may be most favorable or unfavorable. Now, Hush Prabhu, are you able to read the screen? You're the only one, I think, I mean, others may not have read, but they spoke a lot. Nahush, are you
Yes,
able to read anything?
yes, I am.
Okay, good. Thank you for joining us. Toward the end of his life, could you start from there?
Absolutely. Toward the end of his life, upon seeing the dearth of bhakti in society, he deprived the people by ceasing his attempts to deliver them. On the pretext of old age, he adopted a vow of silence and remained immersed in manasana seva, devotional service performed within meditation. Overwhelmed with compassion for the souls suffering in this world, with tearful eyes, he looked toward me and ordered me to preach the doctrine of Suddha Bhakti.
Excuse me for
That was,
interrupting you for a second. This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur speaking about his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, just so you know the context. Please continue.
okay,
He looked toward you.
overwhelmed, yeah. He looked toward me and ordered me to preach the doctrine of Suddha Bhakti that was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his eternal devotees. He also instructed me to compose this Anovriti commentary illuminating the Piyusha Varsani Vritti commentary on Sri Upadeshamrita. Taking the dust of his divine feet upon my head, I have followed his command. But just when I had completed commenting on 8 verses of Sri Upadeshamrita, he departed this world from Swadanta Shukada Kunja at Sri Radha Kunda and entered into Sri Radha Krishna's eternal pastimes. O Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, intimate devotee of Srimati Radhika, on this day of completing my Anuvriti commentary on the verses of Sri Upadeshamrita, this destitute servant of yours offers it into your lotus hands. May you be pleased. All glories unto you. Remembering Sri Gaura Chandra on this 22nd day of the lunar month of Bhadrapada in the year 1914 at Chandrasekhara Bhava in Mayapur, I've completed this Anuvriti commentary.
Thank you very much. So that ends that 11th verse. Does anyone have any thoughts, any inspiration, any questions, any further comments, please?
The 8th verse is most important.
And what was that verse again? Is that what is that next verse?
Nantama Rupa. Look at Nantama Rupa, that verse.
Tanama Rupa Charitari Bitapya Vidya, something like that.
Yes.
Is that's the essence of all advice? Is it that verse?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how quickly can I find that. That's verse 2. Okay. Let's see. Can you read it out, Mahabodhi Prabhu?
I'm on my phone. It's too small on my phone.
Okay, here it is, coming up, folks. Here it is, number 8. Tanama rupa charitari sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasine yoja tishtan vrajetad anuragi jananugami kalam nayeda kilamityupadesha saram. While living in Vraj as a follower of the eternal residents of Vraj, who possess inherent spontaneous love for Sri Krishna, one should utilize all one's time by sequentially engaging the tongue and the mind in meticulous chanting and remembrance of Krishna's names, form, qualities, and pastimes. This is the essence of all instruction. Wow, yeah, so much.
Meticulous chanting.
Following the eternal pastimes, right? Also, and
it doesn't say anything about hunting down the people who are scamming us with vaccination.
No. Inherent, those who possess inherent spontaneous love for Sri Krishna. So that's Raganuga Rupanuga Bhakti.
Right.
So right there, it's told to us, we should try to live in Vrindavan, or at least live in Vrindavan in the mind wherever we're at, and associate with those eternal spiritual personalities that are following this Raganuga Bhakti platform, engage all of our time in hearing and chanting and devotional service for 24 hours a day in those type of moods. And that's the essence of all advice.
It's a great slap of reality to remind us that our priorities are meticulous chanting and hearing and chanting about Krishna's pastimes. Baba Trini Nrihari, you have your hand up, please. Go ahead.
I do. One time, Srila Narayan Maharaj was trying to get in touch with Burjan and Giri Raj, and he got in touch with, I don't remember if it was Burjan or Giri Raj.
No, Giri Raj, because he wouldn't respond.
And he said, and so are you, when you're chanting, when you're doing your bhajan, you are remembering the Kaliya Astak, what is it? The
Astakaliya Lila.
Kaliya Lila, yes. So that's important to, while you're chanting and doing your bhajan, to remember the pastimes, the name, the form, the pastimes.
Excuse me for interrupting you. Nahush, Piper, Henry, have any of you heard of the Astakaliya Lila before? Are you familiar with that term? Astakaliya Lila. My understanding, correct me, my other Prabhus, is there's in the 24 hours of the day, at every hour, Krishna and his associates are performing some specific activity. So when you learn about them, you can meditate. You can be in this manasa seva, the service of, oh, now it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Krishna's herding the cows. Oh, now it's 2 o'clock. Krishna's coming back for lunch. Now it's 3 o'clock. Mother Yashoda's bathing him. I don't know the exact pastimes, but that information is there. Isn't that cool?
It's broken down to eight transcendental periods.
Okay. Yes.
And so during that time, there's different pastimes that, like you said, that are taking place. And so one who's chanting or remembering can remember what those activities are. And Gauranga also has his pastimes in the same way.
Is that the same name? Excuse me, is that the same name, Astakaliya Lila, for Gauranga, or does he have a different name for that?
Different name.
Okay.
Different name.
Okay. Please continue.
So, but the method is, like you said, like was being said, is that one can, like the whole Bhajan Rahasya by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is also mentioning here's the prayers at different times of the day that he's remembering, and then as he remembers and he quotes, he's thinking about this verse and these verses that relate to that. So in this different periods of the day and night, they're thinking like that. Similarly, those Vishwanath Chakravarti, that they've written Govinda Lilamrita, which also breaks down Krishna's pastimes during the different sections of the day. There's many literatures like this. So this isn't something that can easily be done, because first you have to be able to, obtain that position of smaranam to be able to remember that. So what does that actually mean? You have to be advanced in kirtan, to advance in Shravanam to get to Kirtanam, and then advance in Kirtanam to remember to Shravanam, and then up through the level of, going through from steadiness, and then to taste, and then to Ashakti. As you move these levels, then you can start, thinking about these types of activities. And then what happens in that mood, the Madhurya Kundalini, it explains that spurtis will come. You'll see different forms, Krishna, form of Krishna, Radha Krishna, whatever your is today.
Spurti means Spurti means revelation. Krishna reveals himself.
Yes, you'll get it'll be like Krishna. You'll see the pastime, or you'll see Krishna, and then you'll become so excited, but then it'll break. It won't stay for too long. It'll come and appear, and gradually, as you become more succinct in your meditation and in your surrender, then the spurtis stay longer, and to the point when they go, the separation is so high it can burn universes.
So was that for Dhruva Maharaj when he was meditating in the forest and Lord Vishnu appeared before him and then disappeared? Was that a spurti? When the Gopi Krishna was with Radharani in the Rasa Leela dance and he disappeared, is that different than a spurti?
Well, he did, because he physically disappeared, and then they went searching for him, right? So that the difference is more like what you said with Dhruva, then Vishnu appeared to him, but then he disappeared also. So in this lifetime, in this particular deal, I won't come again, but this gives you impetus to go further.
Lower hand.
Baba Trini, in your hurry, you have a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, Baba wanted to say something here.
Well, spurti is like a vision. It's almost like a waking dream.
Uh-huh.
That is one way to describe it.
Yeah, I can accept that.
Yeah.
Henry, any comments from you, Henry? You've been attentively listening. Any thoughts?
There's a lot. It's like we're dealing with very condensed milk. And so there's a little difference in the way of savoring it or taking it. We can gulp it milk. So
some of these topics are very, very high. So
yes, sure.
But hearing them, there's no fault in hearing them. Hearing of them, it's just, we don't necessarily will realize them unless you have association of a Parambhakta that can instill those into your heart.
Yeah, so it always boils down. I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand, but I feel that it always comes to take shelter of the pure devotee of Gurudev. That's the importance of Guru, Sri Guru. One time, Srila Narayana Maharaj looked at me and said, actually, Bhakti Lata Bij installed by the pure devotee is actually means Shraddha. The Shraddha means
seed.
You could say it.
Seed.
Yeah, Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed.
Yeah.
That famous,
Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad He Pai Bhakti Lata Bij.
And so the Uttama Adhikari, the topmost devotee, can instill that seed. And Narayana Maharaj said that seed is faith. It's actually Shraddha. Shraddha is crudely translated as faith. But that comes with Sadhusanga, 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 meaning sadhu, the association with these devotees who are already there, who have realization. That was one of the most important instruction that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Raghunath Bhatta Goswami when he was very young. He came to see the Lord, and he said, well, in going back, he gave several instructions, but one of them was to go back and hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized, from a God-realized Vaishnava. And then all these doors, the magic happens. There is like Mahabodhi said, on the contrary, there's nothing wrong. We need to know these things. I mean, this Goswamis, these very important personages, these very important devotees, they spend hours, they spend years writing all this, writing all the science of Krishna consciousness. But like Chaitanya Charitamrita says, it's a science full of mysteries. So how do we open these mysteries is through, again, is anugatya, is sadhusanga.
Taking shelter.
Taking shelter. Anugatya means taking shelter of the superior Vaishnava. And in that case, it's our Guru Maharaj. And so this, we go back to realizing and understanding prakrit and aprakrit, manifested and unmanifested. Unfortunately, or for whatever, when we are in lower stages, when the spiritual master disappears, we think, oh, he's gone, no longer I'll be able to connect with him. But he's not gone. He's entered aprakrit, unmanifested lila. So that always the disciples would always praise and beg for that association. And Guru hears, he's actually an outer manifestation of super soul. So he will hear us. He knows us better. Like practically speaking, I remember bringing a friend of ours to see Narayan Maharaj, and this devotee said, at one point, says, sorry, Maharaj, but I have to go now. I have to go. I have a meeting with my friends. And Sri Narayan Maharaj says, but I'm here. I'm your best friend.
Nice. Mahaburi Prabhu, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking when Narhari was saying that, and the comments when Astakali Leela were going on before, I was on a walk that was in my hometown when Srila Gurudev came to my hometown, Narayan Maharaj, and there was about 10 people, and I know I was in the back. I was this time in the back with a couple Maharaj and stuff as we were dealing with some society issue, and Srila Narayan Maharaj was up in the front. He walks faster than anybody. If anyone was on a walk with him, you can't even keep up with him. Anyway, he was walking out in front, and then we were kind of chatting in the back farther so we wouldn't disturb him, at least we thought, and talking about some political or some, I forget exactly what it was. And Narayan Maharaj, he had stopped and he called us forward. He said, when you're chanting with us, when you're working, you should try to follow like I am chanting. We are chanting, not back Prajalpa, back in background politics. These things are not good. He said right now, and then he started talking about immediately what Krishna is doing right now, and he started entering the whole pastime. He said, this is what we're in. You should try to follow in this regard. So in other words, it was a walking class on, practically Astakali Leela chanting. So it's not like, they're just sitting on the bank of Radha Kund and just meditating. That's wonderful. But here, chanting japa, walking in a park, meditating, at that particular time early in the morning, what's Krishna's pastimes? And so he started relating the pastimes, details of what's going on with it. And we, of course, felt pretty insignificant in our, material concept of, Krishna, whatever kind of japa we were doing, talking about some political scenario that had to be dealt with. Now, it's not that the political scenario didn't have to be dealt with, but it didn't have to be dealt with during japa time, right? That was right. And especially if you're have the opportunity of whether you were going on walks with Srila Prabhupada or going to watch Narayan Maharaj or Bhaktisiddhanta Sridhar or any of the great great devotees, that in itself is Mahat Sangha, so then don't blow it by trying to do not chant appropriately or ask some crazy question or something, but take the advantage of in that association just by their desire, amounts of devotional service will progress onto that individual without even their knowing it, just by their attendance in that. So I just wanted to bring that part because it reminded me when they were talking about Astakali Leela, just the fact of, not just sitting in meditational form, but it can be done while chanting anywhere in any place. Is how where it says if you can't be in Vrindavan, then put your mind in Vrindavan, and where wherever Prabhupada was at, or wherever Narmar was at, or Bhaktisiddhanta was at, that was Vrindavan, because they brought Vrindavan with them.
Right. Nitya Leela has a question. She's had her hand up for a while. Sorry, Bhavatrini Hari. Nitya Leela, can you put your camera on for a second, just because Henry's never seen you before, and I'm not sure if Piper has seen you before. Are
Yeah,
you
Hare
able?
Krishna. Yeah, so sorry, I'm traveling actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not possible.
Go
Yeah,
ahead. Ask your question, please, or make your comment.
yeah, I'm still confused the differences between Ashtakali Leela and Prakrita Leela and Nitya Leela Pravishta. So would be thankful if can elaborate again.
Mahabodhi Prabhu, did you want to say something on her question, please?
Yeah, I can. And Narhari can give some additional. Nitya Leela is that those activities of Krishna and the Vrajabasis that are taking place in Braj on eternally, these different pastimes. The Astakali Leela is remembrance of Krishna, Radha, Krishna and his eternal associates, depending on what your ras is, remembering those, what's happening during the 8 junctions of the day and night, remembering those relevant pastimes, and that's a type of worship called Astikalila. And during the different times during the day and night, they're performing that Krishna has different pastimes that the devotee can meditate on. So what was the third one? The Astikalila, Nitya Lila, and apricot. The apricot are those pastimes which are taking place in the spiritual world, unseen by those of us in this material world. Okay, so they can also be Nitya Lila, they can also be Astakali Lila, but the apricot means they're unseen by us. They're just like you go to Vrindavan and you can see Vrindavan, with your material eyes, Loi Bazaar and the streets and the cars and all that. Or apricot, there are Krishnas there with all the eternal residents, and there's Kalpavrikshatis, and there's so many, so many spiritual wonderful forests. All these things are there. We may not see them in our vision, but they're nevertheless there, somewhat in another prakost or another, you can say, dimension. And so those are the 3. I don't know. Someone else can try to explain it a little better than I did.
Bhavatrini, in your hurry, did you have something else to say in your hurry, Bhavatrini, before we take Nahush's comment or question?
Yeah, there were. I was just thinking that, and I think it's common to all devotees. But when I was a kid, I was always wondering. I asked my mother, then I asked my priest. What is God? Who's God? What is He doing? And of course, I didn't get the full disclosure of what is He doing until I took initiation from Srila Prabhupada, and later on, and as I learned about Krishna, it's all revealed by the important thing is all revealed by the spiritual master. And so Mahabodhi explained it real well. Was manifested or unmanifested.
So prakat is unmanifested, just being in the material world. That was the only one.
That's manifested.
Yeah.
Apricot is not manifested.
I meant manifested in the material world. That's what I meant. I said I got dyslexic. Sorry about that.
But as we get enthusiastic because of that, we call it the moods of the spiritual master. He infuses in that enthusiasm. What is Krishna doing? Don't we want to know? And what are we chanting for? The other thing that came to mind is when Mahabodhi was talking about the morning walk, and it was a morning walk where I had just read the intimacy, because this is all about ultimately intimacy with the Supreme Lord, and it begins with the spiritual master. So there's a term, serving the spiritual master in intimacy. Do you remember Mahabodhi? Vishramba,
Vishramba Seva.
Seva, this service with intimacy. So I asked Srila Gurudev, when I got a chance, there were about 50 of us, imagine, try to follow. And then when I got close, I said, Srila Gurudev, as you can see, I read Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Maharaj in the Nitigucha, the songbook at the end, his statements that one should serve the spiritual master with an intimacy. That's Nishramba Seva. And Gurudev said, he looked at me, very penetrating eyes like Prabhupada had, and that hit my heart. And he said, am I not in your mantras when you recite them? So this, again, the connection to the spiritual master, he gives us this Gayatri mantras by which we can realize, because we talk about Ishtadev, you know what Ishtadev, Nityalila is, that our attainment of our Lord, or that mantra, each one has a Lord of the mantra that can be realized. And so the perfection is that ultimately we have that intimate association with Gurudev that is beyond material, manifested or unmanifested. Right now we're living through a period where, for us, Prabhupada disciples, Gurudev disciples, they went into Aprakrat Lila, but that doesn't mean that it's over and finished. So it's up to us now in begging for that, continuing the practices that they had given us. But now they're done with a particular purpose, not just out of duty, but it's out of love and affection, and that intense desire. Our desires have been now transformed to transcendental ones. We want that association. We want that service. We're chanting. Prabhupada said, we begging Mother Hara, please engage me in the service, in your service, while we're chanting.
Nahush has a question for quite a long time.
Oh, no, yeah, I just wanted to quickly make a comment about Spurti. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think it's Murari Gupta, if I'm not mistaken, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he has the vision of Lord Ramachandra. Would that be an example of a Spurti in the sense?
Yes.
Well, yeah, perfect. So yeah, that's. I just wanted to make that comment. And I read a little bit of Chaitanya Charitamrita yesterday on Lila with pastimes of Sanatana Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when I was reading, I had that experience of just wanting to keep reading very intensely, very fast, so that I can just keep on meditating on those pastimes. So I hope I can continue this practice. I mean, I'm nowhere near, but just being around all you devotees is really helping me. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, Nahush. I have a quick question. If you don't mind me mentioning Henry Prabhu, we were having a discussion last night, and I'm presenting this to Mahabodhi, Bhavatrini Nirhari, and Rasangi, my older godbrothers and godsisters. You've been near devotees, I think, since 92, 93, somewhere in there. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's met all varieties of devotees, some who have been very generous and kind with him, some who have not always been honest in their dealings with him. And so, I won't say he's jaded, but, he's sort of, I would say he's very open to receiving good association from any. If I understand you correctly, Henry, you're open to receiving a heartfelt connection with Krishna through whatever means. You were mentioning, well, we were fortunate to meet Prabhupada when Prabhupada was on the planet, but that you have to have a living guru. And so one thought I have is, I know every time I put on a recording of Srila Prabhupada, and I have this cool little device that I picked up Vaisheshika Prabhu gave me a copy, and I also got one in case this one broke. It's a little player, and as soon as I put it on, well, here it is. Yeah, it's instant Prabhupada. And I have over 1,000 recordings on here. And since I live alone and I'm an hour and a half from many devotees, I can feel quite isolated here, and try to fight off depression and anxiety. But as soon as I hear Prabhupada's voice, and I've experienced this driving all over Canada, um, I immediately I feel Prabhupada's presence. I don't feel I'm so alone. So I just wondered if any of you'd like to elaborate on this, that because Henry was saying, well, Prabhupada's not here anymore. And my gut reaction was, no, Prabhupada's in his books. Prabhupada's in his recordings. But at the same time, I know for myself, even though I've got all his books here, all his recordings here, it's important to have human contact as well. So is there any question you want to formulate around the points I've shared, Henry, to share with the other older devotees? Or have I kind of represented your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you fine.
Yeah. Like you have a stronger connection with Prabhupada because you had that different kind of association, and which is great, and I'm getting that part secondhand, I suppose, and and I guess I could say maybe I would have stuck around the organization longer if I had a better experience, but in the end, it didn't matter because you know there's devotees actually hiding all over the place, and and when you're just trying to be a devotee and build up that longing and through the calling on the names, and that builds it up, and Krishna's got 1,000 ways to send you blessings, or 10,000 or more, right? So it can happen in all kinds of different ways, and you know not to say, like, in as much as Srila Prabhupada's still here for sure, and so is Bhaktisiddhanta, and the rest of them, including Chaitanya and Krishna also, and all of them, right? They're all kind of right there, if you engage in relationship, in a devotional relationship. So it's all there, and this is, I don't actually spend a lot of time studying the the details like you guys are doing tonight. It's quite fascinating, the details of the relationship. It almost sounds like listening to people talk about their family. You got Kund and Radha and all the different relationships, and what feelings there might be, and how you have different kinds of attachment to different ones, and how it all plays out. And this is, in human life here on planet Earth, you can well say that the greatest joy comes from, for human life, the greatest joy is family, right? Those are your most loved ones, and the closer they are, the more you love them, and so on, right? And so we're taking that template, at least that's how I interpret it. We're taking that family template and applying it to Krishna, and you have Radha and the whole family thing, and how the different relations play out, and what could be more beautiful, really, So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Rasangi, you had your hand up. Please speak.
Yeah, I just want to say that I so much appreciate, for those of you that came late, Henry led us in a beautiful kirtan. Beautiful. And I hope that you can do it closing us out, maybe.
I was thinking the same thing. Totally.
He's such a beautiful pianist, and the chanting was beautiful. And I just want to say that, my understanding, and it didn't come in the beginning, maybe when I was first a devotee, but having affection is really important. Like, don't take spiritual initiation from someone who doesn't feel affectionate toward you. That you have to feel there's affection there. There's a relationship. So like we love each other. We're kind of getting friends and we're close. We feel comfortable. We can come here, make mistakes, and we feel safe and we're learning together. That's really important. You know, so not some of us that had different kind of leaders. Maybe they didn't feel good. We weren't treated well and we went away. So I'm just encouraging you to find that kind of association that you feel close to, that you feel like family with. And that will help you stay close. It helps me. We love coming together, hanging out for these couple of hours, a few times a week, because it feels good. And we're learning together. So welcome, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Rusangi. Mahabodhi Prabhu, he's shared the point. I mean, Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON in 1966. It is a corporation. But Mahabodhi, could you just say something? Because you've made the point to me how there's ISKCON, like the real grassroots ISKCON, the one that we know where we were all little ducklings, so to speak, following Srila Prabhupada. We felt Prabhupada loved us. We love Prabhupada. And then you've made the point that sometimes there's like the ISKCON Inc., which is more of like a very official, gigantic institution. Could you say something for the benefit of Henry and the rest of us on that point?
Wait,
Well,
can I just say something? Sorry, real quick. Okay. I don't think it's just ISKCON though. I don't think we can just, you know what I mean? It can, any group, Sangha. So,
okay. You're saying impersonalism could be there in any organization.
Yeah, I don't want to pin it on ISKCON. Let's talk about what works.
I do. I'm going to make it very serious because I had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada. As you know, I was his guard. I ran his darshans for 5 years. And in Mayapur and Vrindavan, anyone that came in to see Prabhupada, I had to let him in. I had to ask Prabhupada wants to see him, had to make sure that stuff like that. So what Prabhupada came to give was none other than what Lord Krishna gave to Brahma. Brahma had given it to Narada Muni. Narada Muni had given it to Veda Vyas. Veda Vyas gave to Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya gave it. He came all the way down through a section to Madhavendra Puri, then to Ishwara Puri, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and then also from him came the 6 Goswamis, and then Krishnadas Kaviraj. Okay, then Srinivas Narottam and Shamananda, then Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then Baladev Vidyabhushan, then Jagannath Das Babaji, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then Gorkishore Das Babaji, and then Bhaktisiddhanta, and then the various aspects down to Srila Prabhupada, and continuing through our Gaudiya Guru Varga. Now that's called ISKCON. Okay, and in those principles are eternal principles and principles that are specifically geared to bring out that pure devotional service that we talked about in tonight, which was that verse, if you remember, that was being spoken. Anibilasada sunyam jana karmari anavritam anukuleta Krishna anusilanam bhakti uttamam. This verse is the precept Prabhupada used for explaining what is ISKCON, what is pure bhakti. Okay, that's one of the concepts. So when ISKCON, within ISKCON now, ISKCON Inc. is taking a situation where they've changed books, they've changed philosophy, they've centralized things where Prabhupada said not to centralize. So there's a whatever you want to call it, a deviation or a change from Prabhupada's teachings, we're coming down in disciplic succession to now adding different kind of things. One thing they're fighting now is their position on COVID. Another thing is they made thousands of changes to Prabhupada's books after his departure, which is unheard of. There's a many other acceptance of different things that are concurrent in social society, but not accepted in our Vaishnav Sangha. So because of that, there are two visions. The one vision is the pure ISKCON vision, which is nothing different than our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, which any of the following of whether any of the Gaudiya Sanghas that are following that would be considered real ISKCON. And then ISKCON Inc., or those corporation that is changing Prabhupada's desire to based on what I don't know, their own concepts, their own thinking, bringing things, taking the devotees from out being devotees into making employees, and then they can be fired. All these different concepts are not the concepts that are coming from Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta, or even anywhere in the Gaudiya Math, not from Narayan Maharaj, not from Bhakti Raksha Sridhar, or any of the Bhakti Priyan case, any of those followers going up, these things are not part of. So therefore, ISKCON Inc. is separating itself by creating its own divisive separation from ISKCON. Because ISKCON, and within ISKCON Inc., there is pure ISKCON, where people are going out on Harinam, they're distributing books, they're doing prasadam. All these things represent real ISKCON. So if you're performing in ISKCON and doing those things without the concept of all the crazy stuff that's being managed around you, then ISKCON is there. But if it's based on the things that are of changing left and right, that, the nature of sannyasis, people buying their own samadhis, changing Prabhupada's books, so many other different, centralizing all of the management and making it, and then making, like in New Vrindavan area, none of the devotees are considered devotees. The devotees of New Vrindavan are only the board member and the GBC. Therefore, none of the devotees are considered devotees in the organizational structure. They're considered employees. So all these things are deviations from Prabhupada's philosophy. Therefore, we might not want to call a duck, but if it has feathers and it has webbed feet and has a beak, and it looks like a duck, then probably is a duck. So therefore, the separation from ISKCON, following Prabhupada and following the whole Gaudiya, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and changing from that platform, then that's something different. Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada both mentioned, we talked about last week, where they're saying within the movement, there are devotees dressed as devotees and stuff, but have no interest in it. They're interested in simply doing business, making money, associating with women, and when they're supposed to be spiritual leadership, changing things for their own, profit, fame, adoration, and distinction. And all these things are symptomatic of deviation. So therefore, I give my obeisances to all those who are really following pure ISKCON, and those that are not, I separate. And therefore, in that conclusion, just like the person who was saying before, it doesn't mean that we're going to get along with everybody, because not everyone's interested in following pure devotional service. Some people have their own means, whether they want to, dress as a devotee and become, personally famous, or they want to have money, or they the real key is surrender to Krishna, and Anubhilasa Sunya means doing everything for the benefit of Krishna's pleasure and Guru's pleasure. So I make that distinction. I'm not saying that you have to make that distinction, but I certainly think it's obvious, for anyone who's been through the wars since Prabhupada's disappearance.
Thank you very much, Mahabodhi. Just before we pass things on to you, Bhavatrini, in your hurry, I just want to say a brief comment to Henry Prabhu that at least what I'm getting from Mahabodhi Prabhu is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I appreciated how he was, appreciating those who go on the Harinam, who distribute the books of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, some would say the current Bhagavad Gita with 5,000 edits is not the real Bhagavad Gita. But I mean, I've seen either the original or the one that's been edited. They're both making devotees, but in the case of many devotees, they prefer the Bhagavad Gita that created 5,000 Prabhupada disciples. I mean, so that's a debatable topic, but I've seen some devotees going extreme, and because they've had maybe an unpleasant experience in ISKCON, the tendency is, I reject ISKCON. No, because ISKCON's got thousands of amazing, sincere devotees. And there's other people who are saying some things that, I find objectionable and I could never agree to. So this Prabhupada would say discretion is the better part of valor. So we can inquire from those who are senior to us because they have insights that we may be lacking. And the last comment I want to make before I pass over to Bhavatrini in your hurry is Jamuna Devi. She asked Srila Prabhupada because she wanted to start an all women's ashram. Prabhupada was not actually so much in favor. He told her, don't over endeavor because that will oblige you to bring men in to manage. Don't do something, that you're going to have to depend on men. Anyway, some of the leaders were criticizing Yamuna Devi, saying, you're not in ISKCON anymore because, basically you're not doing what we want you to do, or, you're not coming to Los Angeles to teach deity worship or cooking or what we want you to do. So Prabhupada told Yamuna Devi that ISKCON is wherever there's at least two people who are chanting Hare Krishna and they are compatible. Those are the two criteria: chanting Hare Krishna and they're compatible. He said you could be 200, but if you're not compatible, then that's not ISKCON. So I found that to be an interesting response from Srila Prabhupada. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Bhavatrini in your hurry, please, you have your hand up there.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Henry very much because I think he hit it on the right place. We are personalists, and the whole clue. One time we asked Srila Prabhupada, a devotee asked him, it was a lecture, 75 February, Mexico, and the devotee asked Prabhupada, when we attain perfection, we go to the spiritual world. And he said, no, you go to a Brahmanda, another universe where there is planet Earth and Krishna has taken birth, and you will take birth in the family of Gopas. So ultimately, like Henry was saying, that you were saying, Henry, that is a family, is love. The relations are like that. They're intimate, they're very personal. And so that's something that I think you got pretty much right. The rest in ISKCON, unfortunately, we confuse that, and the institution, and it becomes very impersonal. The problem is when that happens, then ISKCON is finished. So because it's about devotees, it's about our exchanges, our personal exchanges. Rupa Goswami is the one that says that in choosing. I'm sorry, I'm going too long. No. Sorry, my tongue, that's one problem on mine. I talk too much. I just wanted to thank Henry, and I think that he has it right. That is actually, it's all based, is that we are ultimately will be family of Krishna, will be relating to Krishna somehow in one of those four relations. That's the highest goal. And that, we should like that relate to a guru and be accepted with someone that likes us.
One thing we wanted to mention is that there's always a pure devotee on the planet, and you don't find your guru, the guru finds you.
So like Henry was saying, sincerity and your longing, you have to by sincerely chanting that desire, that longing to have that association higher and higher and higher will come. Krishna's in our heart. He knows better than us. One time, Narayana Maharaj said, I can see in your heart things that you don't even know they are there. All this material desires that you have, everything.
I'm really looking forward to hearing the kirtan.
Yeah, does anyone have a closing word before we hear another kirtan from Henry? Mahabodhi, do you have any last word on what was just spoken?
No, I agree with you. Gave them better opportunities because they got to speak nicely about family members and stuff. You asked me the question about ISKCON and ISKCON Inc., and I answered truthfully what. Yeah. So for those who might feel a little, but because we're a member of ISKCON, we have to also have our eyes open to what's going on, not just accept blindly all these things that are being thrown and and just blind followers. Prabhupada didn't want blind followers.
Right.
So,
He said, I want independently thoughtful men. I don't want any bureaucracy.
Yes.
yeah.
We didn't feel any animosity or coming from you. The way you described it was beautiful. That ISKCON was formed by the first guru, Krishna Brahma, and that this ISKCON Inc., the leaders and the people that are misusing it are deviating, but that doesn't mean people that are taking advantage of the ISKCON that's still there in order to do devotional service are still advancing, and we can still take their association.
We can benefit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Piper, for coming this evening. I appreciate your effort because you're a full-time caretaker of your dear mom, and I know it can be very demanding, but you managed to make time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me and inviting me. I'm always learning a lot. I appreciate everything everyone has to offer.
Yeah. Piper was, you were with the Yogananda Self-Realization or Fellowship, correct, in California? Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a little while.
So he got you
A little
started.
long while.
A little long while. Cool. And no, I wish, thank you for coming, even though you came a little late. That's fine. Better late than never. So, do you have another Hare Krishna Kirtan up your sleeve there, Henry Prabhu? Can't hear you.
Another one?
Yeah, you can do the same tune unless you have another one. It's up to you. It's your call.
I'll just try to adapt something.
If we want to sing with them, I suggest you put it on mute. Otherwise, you'll have all these disconnected voices.
Yes, mute is better, yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. So we'll be back again on Monday, Henry, if you and everyone else can please try to come. We're on the chapter now in the Krishna book where Krishna has asked, maybe some others can remember, why is Krishna asking now Akrura to go to Hastinapur? Does anyone know why? That's what's coming up in the Krishna book. Is anyone familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, remember about training?
Because
Mahabharata.
Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana are mistreating the Pandavas.
Oh, okay. And so he's coming to check them out or instruct them or give a report to Krishna?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll find out on Monday.
It said that when what we read, it said that's why he was going to Hastinapur. That's all I remember.
Nityalila, this is your sister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
This,
Hare Krishna.
this is Sunita.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Guru Prabhu.
And Hare Krishna, Sunita. And this is your little sister?
Yeah, yes.
You're supposed to see them.
Little
Actually,
Yes.
yeah. She heard the voice of Henry Prabhu and she just joined in. My God.
No, I'm Henry's manager. I'm here to promote him all over the world. Thank you for coming, Sunita. It's the first time we've met you. Please join Nityalila whenever she can come for our readings, and you'll have a turn to read as well.
Yeah, sure. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Henry Prabhu, thank you so much for your kirtan. It was really amazing.
Yes. I think many people in India and Pakistan will like to hear this kind of kirtan, will they not?
Yeah. Yes.
Classical influence. Chopin, a little bit of Chopin. Was it a little Chopin in there?
Yeah, like Chopin and Mozart kind of stuff.
Little Mozart and Chopin mixed together with the holy names.
They're romantics. My mom loved them.
Yeah.
So we also have our godbrother Javi. Javi is a wonderful pianist. And
Amazing.
he's a famous singer. Do you know of Javi?
I don't know how.
Elin Chester.
Wow.
Elin Chester.
Look up his music. It's divine.
Oh.
I'll find it for you. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So wonderful. And you haven't heard Bhavatrini and Rihari.
That's true. You have to come back Monday.
Local Kirtaniyas. And Mahabhuti, don't you play music as well?
No, I play cartels. That's about it for me.
Oh,
I
who was it?
chant a lot. I chant a lot of kirtans, but usually they're wild ones with wampers or cartels, and
Heavy metal kirtan.
heavy metal kirtans. Yeah.
No, I was watching the kirtan from the new center in New York, and there's some amazing kirtans going on there. Malini is there, and the beautiful new center. They're fired up.
Can you send me a link, please, Rasangi?
And you know what? They went into New York City for New Year's Eve, and they're like fired up, these people.
Rasik Mohan and the devotees there.
I want to go there. I want to go visit.
You should go. You should definitely go.
I go back east in the summer. I may do that.
Where are you now?
I'm in California, Santa Cruz.
Oh, you're a little farther away from New York, obviously. I'm bringing him out. I'm bringing him and his kirtanias out to West Virginia within the next 30, 40 days. So,
wow.
Very we're exciting. We're lucky on the East Coast. You have a lot of devotees on the West Coast. So on the East Coast, where we have a lot of, there's big programs happening in Florida at the end of this month, and New York now, and we're trying to arrange some more. We have more programs here. A lot of different devotees now are in kirtans, and not so much tied with what Sangha is providing it, because sectarianism, as Bhaktisiddhanta said, and in his works, is the enemy of bhakti. So
the enemy of devotion.
So we're preaching that non-sectarian part. Not everyone is appreciative of that, but so be it. People are hungry.
I think that Henry appreciates the non-sectarian concept. He doesn't want to feel that ISKCON is the only Vaishnavas that one can associate with. There's many branches to the Chaitanya tree.
Yes.
Like
very much so.
Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I related back to family, and that metaphor. And I think in my life, there really is nobody like my mother, like how I relate to my mother, right? Special relationship. And there's no one like your mother in your life, right? And we shouldn't have, you don't really have discussions about like my mother's better than your mother, or something, and I can appreciate your mother, and but it's wherever you're situated and you're intimate, and that's okay. That's good, and it's a big world. We're all one big family, actually. We're all children of Brahma, and we're just like brothers and sisters here, all relating, and hopefully getting along, kind of thing. And so it's one giant family, but there's going to be, wherever you're situated, you're going to be more intimate with some than others, and but you want to expand your love so it includes the whole family, including the supreme up at the top. You want to be relating to that because that's got the most sweetness to it, kind of thing. So family is a beautiful metaphor, and certainly, like when I hear about the situation in ISKCON where there's like employees instead of devotees, that's a bit of a shocker. That's kind of
they're devoted employees.
Yeah. And good, and they're getting their blessing every 2 weeks, probably. And that's that is one of the most difficult things, especially in the Western world. This idea that that you could be rejected, right? Like you could be fired, right? kind of if you're an employee, but just generally rejected. And like again, back to family, I mean, terrible things are happening in family life, I suppose, in the modern day. But but it should be like your mother and your father. Whatever you do in life, they're not going to reject you. They're always your mother and father.
Hmm.
And your spiritual family should be kind of like that too, like exactly like that, where there should be no sense of ever that you're going to be rejected, and because that is the worst experience, and that just cuts off your devotion, and your puts you into a trauma almost, right? So you know
That's what's happening.
the family, yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. um so to be rejected like that is terrible. I've seen devotees who like kind of like traumatized because they go through that experience, like what should be like family, and then they end up getting like fired, and it's or rejected in some strange way, and it's a horrible thing. So really, if you're devoted to this ISKCON thing, it's certainly your duty to stick with it, and try to reform it and be a good influence within it, and treat people like family, and let it become over time more like a family, where you don't just throw people away. And this is a thing that should spread right into the larger culture. And like you notice in India, it is more of the culture. It's a more of a family related culture. And you know I was lucky enough to be around an Indian family for years, and to have that experience that it didn't matter what I was or who I was, or that I was different or anything. Like there was you know no feeling. Well, I mean, I had feelings in myself that, oh gee, I did something wrong, I could be rejected. But there was a family thing on their side, right? So that I never had to go through that trauma of actually being rejected from what should be a family thing. And it was a unique experience, really. And it was like, the I would say the father was like my guru, and then there was his wife, but he integrated me right into his family, Indian style kind of, right? And you taste that sort of intimate experience of how life should be, and in that space you're safe, and you can practice your devotion, exercise, be a human being, really live normal. Like being an employee is not that's not a natural event, an experience. That's kind of artificial. And
That's what they've done in America. Unfortunately,
yeah.
that's how they organized it, And that's not what Prabhupada wanted at all.
No.
Actually, your point of family is well taken, because in the spiritual world, Krishna says, my gopis and my gopas and his relatives, these are my family. They're more important to me than anything. So everybody in the spiritual world are lovers of Radha and Krishna, and they're all considered by Krishna as family members, whether they're cows or trees or clouds or gopas or gopis or whatever. They all have love for Krishna, and they're in the center point, and Krishna considers them all family members. So you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your heart, Henry. And thank you to everyone for coming together and giving me your association so I may become purified. I notice when I shut this off for at least a day, I can feel my consciousness is uplifted because of my absorption in your sangha. So I want to personally thank everyone. And yeah, let's come together on Monday if you can make it, in spite of everyone's schedules. As Mahabodhi Prabhu reminded us, the essence of all advice is to meticulously chant the holy name and become absorbed in hearing Krishna's leelas, his pastimes. So,
To Nitya Lila, I just wanted to let her know that because it's actually important, book distribution in Pakistan, and we got 10 books for you. I'm gonna go over the messenger and see if the address is correct. Perhaps you can just again send it to me to where we should ship those books. the Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Yeah, highly grateful, Prabhuji. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your patience. We've been kind of recuperating from illness and like that. And so
just to get, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's it. That we are on it. And
I just want to get clarity that you're requesting English books. Is that
yes,
for distribution in Pakistan?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because Gopal Krishna Maharaj is in charge of the BBT. He must have millions of English books. No?
We do have Sindhi and Urdu translated versions. But yes, English versions we are needing. It's not printable here mostly. But people have started taking interest. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, if you can make some. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Gaura. Go ahead, Gaura.
I was going to say, if you can make some English Western devotees in Pakistan, that would be quite amazing. But go ahead, Mahabodhi.
I was just going to remind what Prabhupada always told me, and as we were distributing many thousands of books during my youth in Krishna consciousness, that don't forget to read them. Yes. So if you're getting sent some English books from Nihari, then don't just distribute them. Make sure that you read them, understand them, so then and so that when you distribute them, it becomes even the better, because then you'll get most benefit by reading them and then distributing them, rather than just distributing them and not reading them. Then Prabhupada said that, Prabhupada, Narayana said, we've written these books for you, not for just to sell them. Right. You have to read them. So that's the only thing I wanted to say. Anyway.
Sunita, don't make this the only time, okay? We want to see you again.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yes.
You're Hari, Prabhu?
Nice to meet you. No, I was just trying to reiterate with a little story to the Prabhupada in a lecture. He announced that he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, and it was going to be voluminous. There will be so many volumes. And the devotees started roaring, Jai Prabhupada, and we will distribute these books. And and they said, when it all came down, Prabhupada said, very good, but aren't you going to read them? And then he looked at the whole room, and he looked at
quiet.
One of us, it was quiet, and he said, okay, you're this age now, so you can read my books at least 3 more times.
Wow.
He made emphasis that we should read at least 3 more times.
Oh, yeah.
We're all in our early 20s and some even younger. But
our Nanda Patni, she's still recovering from her surgery, but she was saying that now she's finished the 3rd canto. Now she's starting the 4th canto. She's just regularly working her way through the Bhagavatam. So I can't afford to let Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci interfere with my Bhagavatam reading anymore.
Yeah. So you will also find out, the amazing thing you find out, just like some of the books, we've read all these books, but some of the books, and there's so many books now that we're reading, but some of the books that we read years ago, we read them now, and it's like, where did that come from? It's just like, Prabhupada used to say, when you first read it, your consciousness, you see a little hole in the window. But as more and more devotional service, that window opens up wider and wider, and you can see more and more. So now we read books, we read some of these things, and go, I've never seen that before. I never heard that before. It's just like they're brand new, starting up all over again. So that's the nature of the transcendental literatures, both by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Narayana Maharaj. Both are eye-opening, eternal. That's why it's so damaging to change his words. From those old timers that you were saying, Gaura, it's so damaging to change Prabhupada's words after he has left. Because Prabhupada had said to us, I had heard, that no one should change his books other than what he'd authorized. He authorized a few changes before he left. Okay, other than that, all these 7,000, 10,000 changes, are not authorized. You never change the books of a departed spiritual master after he left, unless it was just, he gave permission for some grammatical thing.
One thing that Hari, go ahead.
No, go on.
One thing that Hari Prabhu said to me was he noticed that before every republication of a book, like say, 100,000 Bhagavad Gitas were printed, and now it was time to print the Bhagavad Gita again, then Prabhupada expected his editors to make whatever edits needed to be done before the next printing. And so I said to Harisari, well, okay, Prabhupada was doing that, but when is enough enough? And he said, well, that depends on the BBT and the GBC. That was his answer.
See, that's where we don't accept. Because
Uh-huh.
Prabhupada said, and it's the custom that when an acharya leaves, you don't change his words.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden now, some Rupa Goswami, all of a sudden someone's going to edit and make a new commentary, change what Rupa Goswami said or what Bhaktisiddhanta said. Okay. So similarly with Prabhupada and any of the charts, this is free will. The editors, because I had the editor at my house discussing this point, the editors are editing toward what they feel, particularly taking a liberty, what they feel that he should mean or should be saying. And therefore, it's not grammatical changes, but it's philosophical changes based on the editor. So I don't
Can you please give an example of a philosophical change?
Open the new Bhagavad Gita and open the old Bhagavad Gita, and then you go through and see some of the changes. Not only all the photos gone, not only different word meanings have gone, different and the English translations are changed to some extent. So you're not getting full Prabhupada, you're getting a portion of Prabhupada, and therefore. Go ahead, Narhari. I'm sorry.
Just to these Gitas are original. They haven't been changed. So what we're going to send you.
Okay.
And Bhavatrini pays her respect. She had to leave, so to all of you each.
All right.
She gives her.
Jai, thanks very much, and really feeling so honored and privileged to have original Bhagavad Gita. I'll keep one copy for myself as well.
They're out of print.
You're very intelligent. Thanks a lot, Piper. Thanks a lot, Henry. Thank you, Nahush. Thank you, Mahabodhi Prabhu, for drowning us in so much knowledge. Nirhari and Bhavatrini are also an ocean of transcendental knowledge. We're very fortunate to be in your company, and thank you, Nichilila, for coming. Please accept my respectful obeisances. We'll see you on Monday, same time, same station. We'll start a little bit before 7:30, so I can, either Henry or myself will do kirtan just before, so we can start reading at 7:30.
Wonderful.
My obeisances to you. Vanchakalpa Trubhyas Cha
Kripasindu
Cha Titanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada
Jai
ki
Jai Sri
Nitai
Jai Jai Sri Radhe Jai Jai Sri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai 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 Srila Prabhupada Jai Gaudiya Varga Ki Jai.
Hare.